Hello, and welcome to another lesson in my series about report creation and intelligence reporting. This is the third one so far and the last one focusing on the financial report designer. In the first two videos, I demonstrated how to create custom layouts, one using the layout generator and one using the task pane. Now, together with one of my out-the-box layouts and my cash flow report from the first series, I have all the information I need at my disposal to create my financial dashboard. To remind you of the design I'm working towards, I've shown it again on screen. Before getting started, I thought it would be a good idea to give some pointers on creating one. The purpose of a dashboard is to be able to digest key bits of information quickly. Focusing on key bits of information, my first guiding principle is to keep it relevant. This means deciding what the most important indicators are to you and eliminating those that you can do without. Then, even if you still have a lot of information to show, you can look at breaking it down into logical groups and either creating a separate dashboard for each one or dividing your page up into different areas. With regards to absorbing the information quickly, once you have decided what indicators you want to show, it's important to arrange them in a logical way. One suggestion would be to start with the most relevant ones at the top and order them as you move down based on decreasing priority. What I have done is group the items that relate to my income statement and shown them first. Below that are my balance sheet items, and then lastly, I've filled the remaining space with my cash flow chart. To ensure that information is grasped easily, it is also crucial to decide what the best way is to display each indicator. Things like individual percentages or ratios might be best shown as formatted text. Otherwise, you can consider the many different charts provided in Excel. Apart from choosing the right gauges, you should also look at making each one and your layout as a whole as simple as possible. This can be tricky because it means finding the right balance between legibility and cleanliness. If your dashboard is too cluttered, it will be overwhelming, and if there isn't enough detail, then you will start to lose context. Lastly, having a visually unappealing dashboard doesn't help either. This talks to things like the positioning and alignment of indicators, using font styles and formatting that are easy on the eyes, and making use of neutral or complementary colors. I have tried to implement these principles in my dashboard, and I'm almost ready to start putting the different pieces together. There are a few more things I want to take care of first. I mentioned in the first video that my gross and net profit margin indicators can be derived from my current period income statement. So I'm going to generate it so that it is available in the workbook. I'm also going to rename each worksheet. The reason for this is that the title of the one I just added is long and contains brackets, and this will cause problems if I reference it in any formulas. I'm changing all of them so that they are consistent in the formulas I use them in will be compact. Lastly, I'm going to add a new sheet and rename it so that I can start with a blank canvas. I'm now ready to add the different components, and as I do, I'll provide some details on them. As I talk about them, I'm going to add the necessary headings and calculations. Remember though that this isn't intended to be a comprehensive guide on financial indicators, and the ones I have chosen are just a sample of those available to give you an idea of what's possible and some of the things to think about when using them. My first two ratios, gross and net profit margin, are used to give an indication of the profitability of a business, and are usually shown as percentages. Gross profit margin tells you what portion of your revenue is left over after taking the cost of your goods sold into account. It is calculated as revenue minus cost of goods sold divided by revenue. I'm going to add the formula for both my current and prior years by referencing the actual year-to-date figures in the income statement I generated. Gross profit margin is good to track on an ongoing basis as it can give an indication of whether you have enough gross profit to cover your operational costs. Also, by comparing it with industry standards, it can give you an idea of your efficiency in supplying your product. For example, if a competitor has a higher gross profit margin than you, it could be that they have found a cheaper way to produce or provide their goods. This could lead you to reassess your business model. The next ratio, net profit margin, is the percentage of revenue left after all costs, including taxes, have been deducted from your sales. It is equal to net profit after tax divided by revenue. I'm going to calculate mine for my current and prior years again using the actual year-to-date values from my income statement. Net profit margin is a commonly used indication of the overall efficiency of your operations because it takes into account all aspects of your income statement. Targeted values usually vary by industry, and although one segment might have lower averages than another, it doesn't mean that those businesses are of less value. A business with a low net profit margin could be more profitable than one with a high net profit margin if it takes in more revenue. You should therefore take into consideration the norms in your industry. The next thing I'm going to do is add my chart to track my revenue, cost of sales, and gross profit. This is where the income statement from my second lesson comes in. From the layout, I'm going to select only my revenue, cost of sales, and gross profit margin rows and include all data columns as well as the row descriptions. I don't have to select the column headings because Excel will add its own labels for the periods. I can now go to the Insert tab and select a chart type. If I look at the recommended ones, they show different clustered charts which are fine. However, I'd like to distinguish my gross profit from my revenue and cost of sales, so I'm going to use a combo chart. I've selected the first option and I'm already happy with the look of it, so I'm going to copy and paste it to my dashboard and position it to the right of the ratios there. I can now continue with my other indicators. The next two are liquidity ratios. They provide a measure of the ease with which a business can pay off its short-term debts when they become due. Current ratio is equal to current assets divided by current liabilities. I'm going to calculate this by referencing the current assets and liabilities in my account types layout from the first video. As I take a look there, you can see that my current assets are broken up into smaller groups, and this means I'll have to sum them up in my current ratio formula. To make this a bit easier, I'm rather going to add them up as a summary row in the layout. I can then reference the summary row in my ratios. A current ratio value greater than 1 shows that you have a larger proportion of current assets than current liabilities. This is an indication that you have the means to pay your short-term debts as they become due. A value of 2 is usually recommended, meaning that you have twice as much current assets than current liabilities. But this is also dependent on the industry you are in. A value less than 1 shows that your current assets are proportionally smaller than your current liabilities and suggests that you could struggle to pay off your short-term debts. The last ratio is the quick ratio and is also referred to as the asset test. It is similar to the current ratio except that it excludes inventory. So it is calculated as current assets minus inventory divided by current liabilities. The reason that inventory is removed is that it is usually the most illiquid of current assets, meaning that it is the hardest to convert to cash. And so it is believed that excluding it gives a better indication of a firm's ability to pay its short-term debts. I'm going to add it to my dashboard, once again using the values in my account type layout. The next thing to do is add my cash flow chart. You may have already picked up that it is in a separate report, so this is to demonstrate that you can copy layouts from one report to another. This is obviously useful in cases like these where you want to combine the data from different types of reports in meaningful ways. To do this, you need both instances of the ones involved open. I've already run out my cash flow report and I'm going to switch to it. You can then use Excel's Move or Copy Sheets function. Since my indirect cash flow sheet is dependent on my cash flow detail sheet, I need to copy both of them. I'm going to do this all in one go by selecting both sheets and then opening the Move or Copy dialog. I can then select my dashboard report as the destination workbook and I'm going to place the two layouts at the end of it. I can then click OK. When you do this, you may be prompted by a number of messages like the ones shown on screen. If you do, then click through them selecting Yes each time. Once finished, you'll see the layouts appear in the destination workbook. One important thing to note here is that both my dashboard report and cash flow report are report designer reports, and this means that the layouts in one will work in the other. Keep in mind though that there may be differences in the underlying data based on the parameters you select when you run out each one. On the other hand, if I were to copy one of these layouts to a standard Sage Intelligence report, which we'll look at in the upcoming videos, any report designer functionality wouldn't work. I can now copy the cash flow chart to my dashboard. And I'm going to position it to the right of my liquidity ratios. Another important point is that when you are combining the information from multiple layouts into one, you need to make sure that the report headings in each layout are the same so that the information in the consolidated one is consistent. For example, you can't have one year set to 2016 and another set to 2015. To make this easier and less prone to mistakes, I'm going to add report headings to my dashboard and then link those in the other layouts to them. By doing this, my dashboard will both include these details, and it means that I only have to change them in one place to ensure that the information in it is right. I'm now finished adding all the components I want to include to my sheet. The only thing left to do is improve the visual appeal of it. To save time, I'm not going to work through this. However, as indicated in the first series, it would be done using the normal formatting functions and features in Excel. Instead, I'm going to jump ahead and display my final design on screen again. Remember, as always, in order for your changes to persist, you need to save your template back to the report in the Report Manager using Save Excel Template. In this lesson, I've taken the layouts I created in the first two videos, one of my out-the-box ones, and one from a separate report, and combined them to create a financial dashboard for myself. This has demonstrated how the layout generator and task pane can be used to design custom layouts, how layouts from different reports can be copied between each other, and overall, how different aspects of the report designer can be used to create something of value. It has also given a brief introduction to financial ratios and some guiding principles on dashboarding. I hope that you have found this useful and are ready to get going with yours. We have now come to the end of the first section in the series, focusing on the report designer. In the remaining two videos, I'm going to turn the attention to another class of reports, which are pivot table reports. I'm going to discuss some of the standard ones already provided in Sage Intelligence, show you how they work, add one of my own, and look at how dashboards can be created from them. It will further enhance your set of report creation skills in intelligence reporting. I look forward to seeing you there.